Rachel McLeod. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and emotional wellness coach. And I help people do the brain work for resolving symptoms of anxiety, depression, and traumatic stress so that they can heal, get free, and really move into their next level of wellness and expansion and connection and all the good things. And I wanted to jump on today and really talk about, tell you something I learned along the way. This is absolutely something I faced um, completely, and you might be facing it too. And I've had a lot of success with this, and I want to tell you some of what I learned, and hopefully it helps you and inspires you on your journey as well. So this talk that we're going to have is called "I Can Do This on My Own." And that was really the attitude I came at so much of life with. And really, when I became very mentally ill, I was definitely having an I can do this on my own. I was 30, I had three small children. I had already quit from being a therapist. I was not doing that talk therapy jazz. It doesn't work. That was my whole attitude. I don't believe that at this point. I believe talk therapy works for many things. Um, and but I was mad, and I was a therapist, and I had tried talk therapy and whatever. Um, Gosh, and I went for for an appointment, and I got an evaluation. I was diagnosed with obsessive compulsive disorder, and I didn't go back after that because I can do this on my own. And so set about doing the work. I started reading a lot of other people's experiences with obsessive compulsive disorder. That helped me tremendously. I was able to see the thought processes and how they were off and match them with my own. I mean, it was very liberating. I was like, whoa. It started to give me hope. I didn't know how to stop any of my obsessions and compulsions, but sure, I was just really in a great place with that. Then I go and I accidentally found somebody that helped my son with an issue he had had from birth, and she helped us resolve that in 3 days, where the doctors really had no idea what to do with it, and were giving me all these crappy ideas and suggestions, which I was like, if this was your kid, we wouldn't be having this conversation. You would have already tried to get to the bottom of this. Anyway, I'm mad. I'm an angry, obsessive, compulsive woman at this point, and who is desperate to be well and desperate to bring wellness to my family. Um, so that woman gave me emotional freedom techniques. And so I learned how to do it. And guess what? I can do this on my own. Do you see a theme? So I started just healing, and I did. I really helped myself a lot. I broke through the insomnia I had. I was collecting jars. I got rid of all my jars. I couldn't have any colored hangers in there. But most of my obsessive compulsive issues were mental. There were mental compulsions and mental obsessions I had. And so I would just watch my little brain up there and use these interventions and resolve those one after another. And I was like, people can really heal. You can heal yourself. And there really is so much you can do. But I that was just the tip of the iceberg. I had no idea what I was going to uncover later was complex childhood trauma, complex PTSD. And this is one that has to do with relationship trauma. And, it's very difficult to heal from that when you're not in relationships, right? So, but I was like, I can do this on my own, right? That was my whole attitude. But what I didn't realize at this point was that my trauma taught me I have to do this on my own. That I was actually living out a trauma response. Um, my parents weren't going to be able to help me go where I was going. There were often many times they couldn't help me. My mom sometimes was in depression and could not help me with basic things, but she definitely was not managing her own emotions or working with her own emotions, so she wasn't going to help me with mine. I didn't even get emotions or understand them. I just kind of walked around in a cloud as a child, um, and I just learned I have to do this myself, and it became this underlying part of um, my personality and how I approach the world. And let me tell you what this didn't do for me. It did not help me have great connections. It didn't help me um, build healthy relationships. It didn't help me build healthy ways of being in relationships. And I will tell you, all the gains I made there were in relationships. And so the truth is that there are so many things here you can't do by yourself. Not if you want to be well. There are so many things that are easier if you get help. There are so many things. There are things that are easier, right? When I wanted to start my first business, I started it, and that didn't go very well. So the next time I got some help, that went great. There's way, see, right? I could have kept at it by myself, and that would be fabulous. And but I knew I would have had to do lots of trial and error. I would have had to do so many things. But if I just got help, it would be easier. It would be better. It would save me a lot of time. Great, there are things like that, but there are also things you cannot do on your own. And there are things as a human that you're just not meant to do on your own. They're actually like being in a relationship with somebody, even if it's your doctor or a therapist or somebody, just being in a relationship with somebody who has a regulated nervous system, and they're looking at you at with their regulated nervous system. This is actually healing your nervous system on a very deep level. It's actually making, it's one of the ways we make our myelin sheath. I think I'm too far off in biology. I don't know. I didn't pass any biology stuff, but there's a covering around your nervous system, your nerves, that actually grows when you're in connection, and gets thicker and healthier when you're in connection with healthy people. You can't do that by yourself. You can't do that by yourself. And there are just so many things that in being in relationship, you can't really do that by yourself. You can be in relationship with yourself, right? Your interpersonal workings, yes. And gosh, you can actually do a lot of healing there. But there's even some of that stuff that we need the eyes of somebody else. We need a mirror to do that work with. Our brains are wired like that. That's why, a lot of times people are angry and they're driving and then they're road raging. They're actually, that person's helping them process some anger, right? Our brains are doing this all the time. This is a main feature of what projecting is about. It's our brain trying to heal, and it wouldn't be able to do that if people around us were not giving us something to reflect on and to be in relationship with. And there's just so many things that you just can't do on your own. And what's really important here is, please don't mistake things you can do for yourself with things that you can't. And then on top of that, please do not um, fall into that same trap that I did, thinking that I can do things on my own, when really it was, I have to do these things on my own. I'm conditioned to do these things on my own. I'm conditioned to be alone. I'm conditioned to think I'm different. I'm conditioned to think that nobody wants to help me with this. I'm conditioned to think you better go over there and get your crap together, and nobody wants you around here, with this trauma you're carrying around. Um, that's that's this disorder running us around. And when you run on disorder, you get more disorder, and you make this thing more and more complex. And so here are some signs, and by all means, leave a comment because I will answer them. So here are some signs. If these, because, and let me tell you what, you're going to be the only one that knows what you can do and what you can't do. Except for maybe if you have some loved ones that understand you and know you, they might be able to give you some clues on this as well. But there's going to be things that you can do on your own. You're going to know that because you're going to be getting results. You're going to see transformation. People are going to reflect back to you that you are actually healing and changing. Great, rock on, keep going. There's going to be things that are easier to do on your own, that to do with the help of others. Know those ones. Sometimes, it's easier if someone comes over and helps you wash your dishes, but you know what? You probably can wash them yourself. And maybe it would be a good habit for you to do that. Maybe not. I don't know. I'm not here to make your decisions for you. I'm here to help you navigate your world and get your results as fast as you are able to get them. We don't have to be suffering with this, but if we're working on something that actually must be done with support from somebody else, I don't want you just, trying on your own and you actually need somebody else and then you think you're a failure. Excuse me, there's my train going by. I want you to be able to be clear on what you can't do on your own. And you'll know this. You'll know this because you're following the same loops. You're looping over and over again through the same results. Maybe the results are happening in each relationship right now. Maybe these same results are happening over decades, right? But you're just it's looping. That's a sign that that you probably that could be something that is not for you to do on your own. Um, yeah, you're not getting any breakthroughs. That's a sign. So these can be really simple to see, but sometimes we don't want to see them, or sometimes we're programmed not to see them. And so I want you to be easy with yourself, but I also want you to be very truthful. And are you making this more difficult than this needs to be? Is there some kind of support that you need? Get it. And really, that's what I learned by confronting this is to really to heal that part of myself, heal the part of myself that thinks that they have to do this on their own. Is start getting support. I could have never before starting this work with emotional freedom techniques, and then later some of the other some of the other interventions I used. I could have never invited someone into my inner world. I was just too fragile. So there was some of that work with by getting a hold of some of these interventions that I really needed to do on my own. And then if you would have watched me, you would have seen me. I'm tapping, I'm getting all these results. Then I'm going and finding people that, what are you doing with this? I remember I was seeing her on the tapping network, Carol Look, Tapping Solutions. I think I was stalking her for a little while. Her name was really familiar. And I was like, what are you doing with these interventions? And back then on the internet, people were, anyway, I don't know. I was catching some things she was doing. I was trying it. I was like, ooh, I recognize that because I had done some therapy. And so I was really trying some of the things that and I was making my own stuff up and I was trying to get as far as I could go. But that was a sign that my brain was like, you've come as far as you can go on your own. Go get some help. And that's as much help as I could get by looking off at afar and like peeking over the fence and like, what are you doing with all of that over there? I still did not have the emotional health to let someone in and look over on my side of the fence. That was entirely too painful, entirely too scary. And so this is, like I said, this is the stuff you have to decide for yourself. But please be honest and please know that if you are doing things on your own and you need to right now, there's a lot of wounding involved there, and you can heal. You please do what you got to do to heal. And you might be in a place where you're like, I want somebody in here. Help me clean this up. Right now, you've got a little bit more availability. You've got a little bit more option and choice, which is really what brains make when we're healing, right? And when you're in a survival state, which I was trying to survive over my internal fragility and like, don't touch any of my stuff. And so I was constantly in a survival state. I did not have the choice to let somebody in. After doing my work, then I was going to energy healers. I was doing some EMDR therapy. I was just like, who has what for me? I mean, I've even had a place now where there's a specific area of my life that is like, and it's outside my area of expertise. So I'm looking for somebody because I don't need to reinvent this. I have no desire to reinvent this. I've invented like so many things. I'm at this point, I'm like, who has some tricks here? Who sees something I don't see? Anyway, but we can heal and we can let people in, we can recover, but really don't let this, I have to do it on my own. I don't deserve help. I deserve to suffer on my own. I deserve to be stuck. There's so much of that in our inner world sometimes. And that's post-traumatic stress. Don't know if you know that. But that's the sound that unresolved emotional distress makes. I don't deserve it. I don't deserve it. I don't deserve it. I deserve to suffer. I deserve to be alone. That's post-traumatic stress. And it takes a huge, huge toll on us. So, Yeah, so my new perspective from here and there, I have so much empathy for wherever you are in this journey, and no judgment. And so, really, if all you can do is just absorb the words and start looking at your life with a different film, like, is this because I'm conditioned to believe I have to do this on my own? Or is this something I really should be doing on my own? That's really for my highest good to do on my own, should, right? Um, and then see what you can do to step out. If you're at a place where you're ready to, like, I want some help, I want to resolve this, let's go, I invite you to book a call with me. I would love to look at this stuff with you. I would love to help you figure out a plan to get where you are now and resolve symptoms and get where you want to go. Resolving symptoms is just like that little annoying little piece in there. Really, it's about wiring in health, and it's a whole process that's really, really beautiful. So, if you would like to do that, you want to take me up on a complimentary call, I invite you to book a call with me now by going to rachelmcleod.com/call, and we'll chat. I'll call you at the time that you choose. There's a little questionnaire afterwards that after you book your call, that's going to help you and I prepare for our time together so that we can make the most out of it. So, but to all of you, just I wish you the best, and really no judgment where you are now. This is the only place we can be. And so, but I do, while I'm here running my mouth on this topic, I would encourage you to jump onto my email list and get these interventions. Once you join my email list, I start sending you interventions like right off the jump. Day one, you get a handout of emotional freedom techniques and then a training video. And then 2 days later, you get my favorite trauma processing intervention, and I train you on this. And then 2 days after that, I train you on another intervention, and you get to try these things out. You don't have to make any judgments. You can just explore if you want to. But gosh, it's so empowering. So I encourage you to do that. All right, there are some questions, so I'm going to read those. Alex says, how does your work help make the connections with our regulated survival system we may have been deprived of in our childhood? Okay, um, I'm not certain I quite understand this, but it's close to something I understand. So let me read it again. I'm going to keep reading questions here because I think we'll get a little bit more light on that original question if we read more. You are an incredible leader in the field of healing. Thank you. Thank you for your live videos. You are so welcome. Thank you. And Alex says, does your work give someone the choice to regulate the areas in their lives they may never thought possible? Okay, I can answer that one. Maybe I'll answer the first one too. You let me know, Alex. So this, the answer is yes. The answer is, so I'm gonna show you a very simple way of, I'm gonna give you a roundabout. This is a very simple strategy for resolving a phobia, okay? And I think doing this, I can show you what regulating the nervous system means. And I'm gonna let me show you. I'm laughing at myself because I think this is the most ridiculous way to explain this, but I don't know how else to explain this. Okay, regulating the nervous system. So this is a regulated nervous system, right? It's cool, it's chill, it's like whatever. And then all of a sudden, let's say you're phobic of spiders. I used to have a huge spider phobia, huge. My spider phobia was actually post-traumatic stress and not a simple phobia. So the resolving my phobia was a little bit of a different path than this, but this is a strategy I use. So try it out. I don't talk about treating phobias because it's usually can be resolved in a session, and my stuff usually is for complex issues, and so you might try this and see if you can resolve your phobia if you have one. Okay, so let's say there's a spider phobia, right? This is your nervous system. And as you become mentally aware of this spider, your nervous system may start doing this, right? You might notice your shoulders getting up. You might notice your body responding. You might notice your heart rate increasing just at the thought of this, right? And so this is a dysregulated nervous system. So the goal right here, just thinking about it, right? You're not in a full out survival state, but you're really you're on the edge, right? And your nervous system is saying, just if it's I'm ready to blow. We're going to freak out if anything becomes any closer, right? So your nervous system is doing this, and here we're going to use an intervention. This is where I would use emotional freedom techniques, EMDR, thought-filled therapy, energy medicine. In my experience, emotional freedom techniques is the fastest. I wonder, I don't know if I've done this with collarbone breathing, with anyway, my favorite trauma processing intervention. Um, anyway, so you've got this nervous system, you're using an intervention, and now your nervous system regulates and you're able to think about the problem, the spider, and your nervous system's fine. You're like, whatever, that's not a threat. Your nervous system has figured out with the support of the intervention, but really the intervention is helping your brain complete your brain's own process for healing and resolving and really understanding the spider threat more accurately. And so now you can think about it, and your nervous system knows it's not a threat. Now it might not feel pleasant because you're like, I don't like spiders, but it's not. Your nervous system isn't freaking out. Then what we do is we take you a little bit closer to the spider. So now we might say something like, hey, what if I show you a picture of a spider? And your nervous system might be like, no, we don't want to look at that, right? And so it might dysregulate again. And so right here, we're going to use another intervention and your nervous system will regulate because all of this distress is information about what happens when we see spiders. And your brain has to process all of this information. Once all that information is up in the prefrontal cortex, has moved through the brain's healing process, the brain, your body says, I got that through because it completed its process. And then your brain sorts out if it's safe how safe it is to see an image of a spider. And so then it's like, oh, I thought that was dangerous, but now it's not, right? And so great. Now your brain has figured out that it's safe to look at spiders. So then we go ahead and trial it because we want to move you closer, right? And we trial it, and we go ahead and almost show the picture. And I'm waiting here to see if there's any more dysregulation because it might be like anticipating horror, your nervous system is freaking out. So if that happens, we're using another intervention because we want to, that's more information about what happens when you see spiders and we want that processed, right? So now you're cool. And then you see the image of the spider. And here, people typically will either not freak out at all, and they're like, whatever, even though they had a major response, or they freak out again, right? But it's a little different. Whatever. If it's not, even if it's worse than they've ever freaked out before, we're gonna shut it off, right? Because we're not trying to traumatize anybody, and we're gonna start using an intervention because, gosh, that was awful. Let me tell you, usually it's not awful because I'm not trying to make it awful, and we want to make it sure it's not awful. So if somebody's resisting here, um, we don't go any further because this is where we need to work. Anyway, so I don't find that people, by the time we show a video of it, they're not reactive like that. So then, but they're still like heebie-jeebies, feel like their skin is crawling, and so we're tapping and we're processing that, and so their nervous system is regulating while looking at the spider. So and then and if we stop working right there, their nervous system will be able to come up and look at the spider all the time, and it will be regulated. There's no which means this is important because that means that their prefrontal cortex is available and they have a choice. They have a choice how they're going to interact with the spider right now, which is not available before when someone's in a full flight, freeze, or faint about it, and or hysteria, right? Then they didn't get a choice about that. And so everything we get processed, every space of this that we get regulated, then they can be in that space from now on without with a regulated nervous system. So they'll have access to their choices. They get to decide. And we really want to go all the way up to the spider. Um, Now, this doesn't mean some people just don't prefer to touch spiders. I'm one of them. But if I need to, I can go scoop a spider up and take it outside. Um, but we want to process as much of that threat as possible, so that way, when a spider runs by, somebody can choose how they're going to respond to it. Whether that's smash it, take it outside, say it, tell it, hey, neighbor, your spouse, whoever, can you get this spider from me? Whatever, not my business. Um, and so that's really what we're looking for. Now, if you understand that process, that we want to make this area of their life in relation to this thing, we want to neutralize their nervous system response, right? That's the same thing we want to do in our with our children when our children are telling us about the bullies in school, right? And we want to it's not helping them if we're doing this. We want to regulate ourselves. We want to be able to listen, and then we want to be able to help. We can really use a lot of interventions here and get you to a place where you can attune to and support your child. As opposed to dysregulating, and now your child is like dysregulated further or stops dysregulating so they can comfort you, and it's a whole tangled up mess. This also is important in intimate situations, sexual situations, financial situations, areas where there's trust and distrust, areas where this applies to every area of your life. Everywhere that you would have a nervous system dysregulation, you are in your survival state. So you're going to have survival responses, and you're going to get survival response outcomes. You're not going to get thrive. You're not going to get choice. You're not going to get your authentic self. And really, that's important. That's really the basis of my work, is to help people be their authentic self everywhere they go, in every situation they find themselves in, even if they can't right now. Right. And that nervous system dysregulation is is when we are experiencing symptoms of anxiety, depression, or traumatic stress. Right, that nervous system dysregulation is where our heart rate rises, our stomach drops, or these old racing thoughts run through our minds. We want to run away. We are irritable. That is all nervous system dysregulation. And so that's a big funny word, but that is what creates all the other things. And so the resolution of this creates the resolution of all of those things. And this is not a bad thing. It has to be, brains should be processing it. But if you've got childhood um, complex PTSD, or you've got significant amounts of anxiety and depression, we know that your brain is half really struggling to process this dysregulation. Like, it's seeing this, and it's not sucking up all the information, seeing what is this, and using this dysregulation to learn more about your world and help you be address your world more accurately and more authentically. And so we're going to help it. That's it. That's why we're using interventions. A lot of times when people's brain already knows how to do this stuff, they don't have disorders. Their brain does have some wobbles here and there, but they don't need to use interventions, or else nothing happens. Sometimes for them, they can use interventions and it just skyrockets the results that they're going to get. But when this process for regulating nervous systems is compromised or has never been established in the first place, because that's one of the problems with childhood abuse and neglect, is that that nervous system dysregulation never gets resolved, and so the nervous system never learns how to do that. But in other cases, sometimes we're good in all these places, but but over here in this one, we're not. And that's really for you to see. That's why when I'm working with people, I'm like, tell me what your stressors are. Let's go, because I need to see how many areas your brain is dysregulating in, and because that will tell me where your brain is like, I can't do this work over here, and I really would love to, but I can't. So that's where we're jumping in to help. And then there's more, right? Um, so so yes, this work absolutely helps people to be able to be regulated in situations where they've never been able to do it before. And yeah, and this is really fantastic because I have somebody who's doing my self-study course, and she told me, like, I tell people, like, to resolve a disorder, it takes about 120 to 300 hours of specific and targeted brain work. And if you've got complex childhood trauma, you're looking at the 300 mark. Does this mean everything is fabulous and fantastic? No, this means that you're not having a disorder. That your traumatic stress is no longer your past is no longer shutting down and impairing these areas of your life. But it also means that you have the tools to process anything that comes up, because your brain will constantly bring up your past, even if you don't have a traumatic past, to live your future and create your future. And so when we see our brain doing that, we can really process through that and help our brain with that and move on to the better stuff and the growth. And she was telling me, she's like, I'm at 550 hours and I just wanted to email you. I've never met this woman. I'm about to, she might be watching. I'm about to like send her a message. Can I interview you? Anyway, um, she has is at she's like, I just want you to know, in case I know you know this, but your process really works. She's like, I'm at 550 hours. Okay. Mind you, she has exceeded, and this is not her first email to me. She has exceeded the time investment involved in resolving disorder. She's already written me many emails of all the amazing results she's getting, how she's not stuck anymore. But for whatever reason, she's still using this. And that's really and that's because it's so empowering to keep discovering. It's like we can use this for personal development whether or not we have trauma. We can help our brains process stuff and excel whether or not we have a trauma, anxiety, or depression disorder, and keep growing. This is how our brains grow as well. And so I wanted to, there was a point I was going to make in that, that I can't remember what I was tying that into something. But anyway, but I'm seeing that same thing in my life where I'll have times when I'm not using these interventions and I don't need to regulate anything, and then I'll go into another layer of depth of something or a new layer entirely, and I'll find that I need support regulating my nervous system. And so I'm so grateful that I have these interventions, because it's here I am. I keep supporting myself. I keep growing. And I just think this is really important, especially when we want to have deep connections, thrive, be well, those sorts of things, and lead our children into more and more wellness. One of my big projects this last year, since my mom passed away, is really healing my family of generational trauma. Like, just there were some things that were said, there were some things that were exposed that really made me, that opened my eyes to some things I hadn't seen before, which is what happens in life, right? Um, and so, anyway, having this work on hand, being able to work with my nervous system and regulate new areas that I didn't even know I would need to be regulating in, it has really made all the difference. So, so grateful. So, I this is how it works. Everywhere that you take your nervous system is really where this work helps. So, um, okay. It sounds like a simple tool, but a lot of effective work. Absolutely. This is, brains have their own process for this, and these tools are just supporting the brain, amplifying the brain's ability to do its work, because brains have a difficult time with when emotional pain is moving through our system, because our survival system's entire job is to get us away from pain. And so it just thinks it's doing its job. It doesn't know that it's preventing us from healing. And so when we apply these interventions, we're speaking directly to that part of the brain. We're saying, hey, just let this stuff happen. We're safe. We're going to be okay. And it does. It responds instantly to these interventions by allowing the whole process to work well and then complete, which is why all these symptoms showing up in our life are just incompleted processes, issues that needed to be completed that aren't completed. And so once we help this complete, it's complete and we get the growth from it, and things stop hurting, and doors start opening, things that our nervous system was blocking us from doing before. um, I had a call with one of my clients who wanted to really take their power back, from have power with this relative. And what we walked around this stuff, and they thought it was down in this direction, but really what happened, what came out of this was that they already had power with this relative, but their nervous system was conditioned in such a way that every time they would even think about grabbing up that power, they would melt. It would dissolve. It would just like they couldn't do it. Their heart started constricting. They're just all this body stuff that made that idea impossible. And so they're still now looking for more power. They don't need more power. They actually need to regulate their nervous system with their power, because that relative taught them, don't have power with me, put your power down. I'm the one with power here. And so their nervous system adjusted to that. So now their nervous system won't let them have power with that relative. And so they are relating with them in the way they were conditioned and programmed instead of who they authentically are. And so as I showed them some options where their power exists, and I showed them what's your body doing when we look at this, they saw the distress. And they were like, oh, right? So it's not about going and getting more power. It's about getting your nervous system to let you use the power that you already have. And if you're not feeling empowered, it's because your nervous system is not letting you have your power. It's programmed to set it down, avoid it, downplay it, suppress it. This works for that as well. This is how we become authentically ourselves. Our authentic selves have our power. Our authentic selves are very powerful. And so, and that, even if you can tune into how powerful you actually are, notice what's going on in your body. That's your nervous system saying, ah, not okay. You can use some interventions on that. There may be some deeper skills you need. That's why I have a whole program. But I would always try, just use an intervention, see what happens. Even if you just get a little bit of progress, you are, as far as brains are concerned, you're off to the races. So I don't know where the races are, but you know, we're talking fast electrical movement, and so that analogy worked for me. Okay. Um, yeah. Okay. I think I've answered all of their questions. So, um, yes, this is all about being and uncovering and just liberating our authentic self, seeing who we are underneath the anxiety, seeing who we are underneath the depression, seeing who we are underneath the trauma, and then really letting our nervous system thrive with that and build with that. That's who we need to be building for. If we've got these other symptoms in place, it creates a reinforcing loop that helps the symptoms grow and take over more of our life, right? And then the next thing you know, it's that's not what's supposed to be growing here, right? What's supposed to be growing here is our authentic self and our authentic wellness. That's what's supposed to be growing. And our brain's job is to do that. And it has a beautiful process for this. So we just need to jump in and help it out at this point. So that's all I have to say today. I'm going to jump off. We've been together for 38 minutes. so um, so be honest with yourself about what you can do yourself, and be honest about what you feel like you have to do yourself and why you have to do it yourself, and be honest that if there's stuff that you want, that you need help with, get the help you need. So be well. See you soon. Bye.